So hi everybody and welcome in. This is our EC Council demo session today around the EC Council's Certified Incident Handling course. Okay, my name is Sean Hanna. I'm a trainer, a master trainer with the EC Council, and we also run a security business called Nemstar based here in the UK, just outside Belfast. The session today, we're going to look at why incident response and incident handling is an absolutely necessary information security control. We're going to consider what can happen if you don't have it in place and what you can gain as an organization if you have the skills and expertise needed to implement a proper incident handling process. We'll also be demoing the CyberQ Cyber Range, EC Council's brand new interactive online lab environment where we have gamified everything and you run gamified labs against every single one of these. There's two presenters today. There's myself, Sean Hanna, and Faizal from the EC Council. Faisal's going to step in now and introduce you to the program. You'll come back to me later when we're talking about the incident response program and the labs. Both of us will be available for questions at the end. Faizal, do you want to kick us off today?
Sure, Sean. Thank you very much for the lovely introduction. I can see that we are off from the heat wave here in the UK, which is there from quite a while, and expecting some good weather in the next few months. So happy about that. So as an introduction, my name is Faizal Shabir. I am the country manager for the UK and the European region. I've been with EC Council now for the last 2 years. And really excited to be working with an organization in EC Council with whatever we are doing in the field of cybersecurity overall. So to begin with, as Sean had kind of given you a little bit of a preview, what we're going to be talking today is towards one of the best programs, what I feel is in the incident handling. I mean, we've had number of versions launched. This is one of the latest versions we do have. Apart from all the other programs which we already been running. And I would like to say here that the EC Council Certified Incident Handling Program is, I would say, among the top 6 programs. I mean, we do have more than 40 programs as such, but the EC Council Incident Handling Program is known to be among the top 6 of them, right? So, So just to give you a bit of a glance and an introduction towards who we are as EC Council, I'm sure that a lot of you in the session today are already aware about it. So we as EC Council have been in the industry now for the last 21 years, in fact, more than 21 years, having more than 40 plus training programs all around the world, spread in more than 145 countries, more than 700 training partners worldwide. And overall, I think the number is a little bit old. We should be having now more than 250,000 certified members. Again, as EC Council, we are known to be one of the world's largest cybersecurity certification and training bodies. And it's just not in the field of certifications, but we also do have our own solutions as such, solutions in the field of phishing simulation and security awareness. And as Sean mentioned, which he's going to be showcasing in a short while with the Cyber Range platform. Again, this is our very own innovative Cyber Range platform, which we have launched very recently. This is something which definitely helps the training industry, and as well as it also helps organizations as well in order to help to upskill, their own skills, their, have a bit of more assessment and a lot of other aspects involved within the Cyber Reach platform as such. So again, that's overall a bit of a glance about who we are as EC Council. Again, we work with some of the largest organizations in the world, and most of our certifications are also accredited to the NIST framework, the National Institute for Cybersecurity Education, and also with the Department of Defense and a lot of other bodies as well. Right. So before I move on to what the threat landscape looks like, just kind of want to give you a short introduction towards what we are talking about today, and that is to do with incident handling and incident response. Now, the reason why I have clearly defined them separately because though they go hand in hand together, they have their own sets and processes involved, right? So when you're talking about incident handling as such, it is more management driven, right? Now, what I mean by more management driven is obviously you have the entire team involved in it in terms of your planning, in terms of your coordination, in terms of the communications involved with reference to a security incident, right? And it is just not to do with the cybersecurity team. You have a lot of non-cybersecurity team as well involved. So you're talking about your legal team, you're talking about your HR, you're talking about your PR team as well. Now imagine when an attack happens, right? Now I will be giving an example of a major attack which has happened in Singapore in short while. But then we've been hearing a lot about the some of the biggest attacks which have happened worldwide, right? We've heard about the attack which has happened with Marriott, and a lot of others as well. Now, obviously, there is a lot of PR involved as well in it because the reputation of the company is at stake. So this is all as part of an incident handling plan as such. So that's one of the reasons why I've given that separately. Now, when it comes to incident response, it is more from a technical aspect. You have the entire technical team involved in it, which also includes you analyzing the incident. How do you actually contain the damage around it, and what are the necessary steps which are taken to further mitigate any kind of future attacks from occurring, right? So that's one of the reasons why we call this entire program more as an incident handling and a response plan. And that is what you're going to be learning in the program. So when you're looking at the cyber crimes all around the world, I mean, again, just open up your social media accounts or your browsers, and you happen to see a lot of information related to some of the other attack happening around. And especially now, since the last few years, let's say during COVID, post-COVID, the attacks have just alarmingly increased. Obviously with the hybrid work model or the work from home model, this has kind of allowed a lot of threat attackers, getting out of the systems, attacking a lot of companies, and we've just been hearing left, right, and center with the number of attacks which has happened. So I would not give you an example of all of them. Maybe one of them I would just pick from the lot out here, what you see on screen is an organization called Travelex, right? Sean, just one screen back again. Right. So Travelex, being, again, you must have all heard about Travelex. They have their own exchange houses all around the world in multiple airports. So what exactly happened during New Year's Eve in 2019 is that they were a victim of a ransomware attack. All their systems were down. Passengers were stranded in the airport because they were not able to get their exchanges done. And just for their systems to get back on track, they had to pay $2.3 million as ransom. Right now, imagine the amount of loss they have faced financially, and as well as a lot of news around it involved as well. Now, the thing is that obviously they did not have a proper security incident in place. They didn't have a proper security management done in place, and that is why this has happened. Now, apart from that, there are a lot of others. NHS, there's Equifax, there's MERS. So there are a number of attacks which has happened, and every other day we hear new attacks happening as well. Similarly, when we move on, the next slide, Sean. Yeah, this one. So just talking about UK, Britain, again, the Dixons, which you all are aware about, the Dixons car phone, they had an unauthorized data access incident which happened a few years back as well. And again, this was one of the major root cause reported for all the network security incidents they have faced. And this was a major disaster for them because 5.9 million payment records were stolen. Now, again, obviously they did not intimate this a lot outside to the general public, but what they had done is that they had informed the necessary authorities, the relevant card companies, so that these cards could be blocked and then replaced as well, right? So this is just kind of to show you, again, the kind of incidents which has occurred and which has happened mainly due to unauthorized access. So the example what I'm going to be giving you today is related to a health organization based out of Singapore called Sing Health. You must have heard about this. This actually happened a few years back. It was a major, major data breach where 1.5 million patient records were stolen, right? That was a major disaster for Singapore overall, right? So what happened here, the next slide, Sean. So what happened here, again, to kind of run through um, dates involved, right? Hackers, so June 27, actually, hackers, they started beginning to steal data from their database, right? Specifically targeting the Prime Minister's records. Now, we really don't know why and what was involved there, but that, again, this kind of gives you a series of dates in terms of how the hackers actually, got into the system, the dates involved in it. So then what happened is in July 4, there was some sort of an unusual activity which was noted by the administrator. Again, it was not highlighted yet to the entire management. It was just some sort of an unusual activity which was detected. Finally, July 10, this attack was flagged to the authorities, right? And again, what was noticed is that obviously there was a political reason around it, right? And again, all these attack happens due to numerous reasons. It could be political reasons, it could be, financial reasons, it could be some sort of a jealousy within an organization. So there are a number of reasons why this has happened, right? The CIO said, and again, that this kind of a data breach could have avoided or could have averted, not for a blanket of middle management mistakes, right? Now that is the major concern. The concern here is that the middle management involved did not have a proper incident handling plan in place, right? They didn't have a proper system, a security system in place. Probably what had happened then is that they had outsourced their entire security management to a third party vendor, right? And again, probably they did not follow the necessary practices involved, right? So due to this, um, this was happening. And again, when you're talking about 1.5 million records, again, now the reason I had shown you the previous example of Britain's Dixon's car phone is because that was related to cards, right? Now, cards are something that, okay, it could be replaced, the numbers are changed, the PIN numbers are changed, and that's all good. But when you're talking about health records, now health records is something which cannot be changed. You're talking about your blood group, you're talking about your personal data, you're talking about your address, right? Now, this is all personal in nature. And imagine when you know all this information is just leaked out, right? That causes a major disaster. Now, again, some of the steps involved here on how this breach happened. Number one is a phishing attack, right? The major reason behind this is there was a phishing attack. So obviously the staffs within the Sing Health authorities, they fell prey to a phishing attack, which means that unknowingly they kind of went, clicked on an email, due to which the hackers infiltrated into the systems. They had weak administrative passwords. They didn't have a proper password management system in place. Number three, patch management was not done effectively, right? And this is very, very important. Now, some of them which I've highlighted here in red, IT cybersecurity team could not even recognize the security incident right in the early stages, right? Poor escalation. There was no proper escalation process in place. And finally, there was no reaction as well to the post-escalation process. And again, why? Because they didn't have their own team in place. It was something which was outsourced to another company, and probably they did not follow the necessary practices which they should have followed in order to avoid this. So moving on, again, if you have to look at the anatomy around it and maybe going a little bit more technical around it, some of the steps taken by the attackers involved, obviously starting from step number one, which is reconnaissance, that is attackers, they gained information about Sing Health's workstations and Citrix servers, right? That's obviously the first step involved. Number two is then they started gaining access to their workstations. And the way they did this is by attempting a successful phishing attack, which actually led to the execution of the malware involved in the workstation itself, right? In step number three, what happened further is that after this initial intrusion was done, The attackers then started moving laterally around it, compromising a number of endpoints and their servers, the Citrix servers which were involved in it, which were directly connected to the database server. Attackers then used PowerShell commands to distribute this malware and infect all the other systems involved. They then further gained full control over the Windows servers and the hosted applications in it by compromising the Windows authentication system itself, retrieving the admin and user credentials from the domain controllers, and then finally exploiting the Citrix servers itself. So obviously attackers, they established a direct connection with the database servers and exfiltrated the entire data, where they were then able to gain 1.5 million patient records. So what are the reasons behind this attack? Obviously, point number one is there were pre-existing vulnerabilities, weaknesses, and misconfigurations. Again, as said, that they didn't have a proper system in place. They didn't have a proper incident management in place. There were pre-existing vulnerabilities. There were weaknesses in their systems. Network connections between these servers and databases were allowed. Right? Again, this is something which could have been avoided, but then they were allowed. Lack of monitoring at the database for unusual queries. Citrix servers were not adequately secured against unauthorized access. As I said, even their password management systems were down, right? The internet connectivity in their entire network itself, it increased the entire attack surface. The version of Outlook which were used was not patched. So again, there are a number of reasons involved. I have picked up just a few and put them across here. So what was the consequences which led to this? 1.5 million patient records stolen, which included their names, their, whatever address numbers they had, genders, blood group. Again, this is again quite critical with the prescription of the Prime Minister of Singapore and other ministers as well. And again, that is really, really not good out there. The Personal Data Protection Commission further imposed a fine of $750,000 to the technology vendor, that is the outsourced vendor who are actually supporting their systems in place, right? And $250,000 to the Singh Health authorities itself, right? The security officers, the IT team, they were all demoted, they were sacked, they were redeployed. Financial penalties which are imposed on 5 senior management teams, right, including the CEO of the technology vendor, Ruslan itself. So these were one of the major consequences which occurred due to this attack. So what could have saved Singh Health from such an attack, right? Again, point number one, and I would always highlight that a lot, is enhanced incident handling and response activities. Now, that is extremely important. If they did have a proper system in place, this would have been avoided. Incident response plans that clearly state when and how these incident reports have to be reported, improving the detection speed and effectiveness of a response to such kind of a cyber breach, as well as incorporating incident response plans, templates, workflows, playbooks, and all the practices which are involved, which could have saved the Singh Health from such a disaster. And then finally, which is very, very, very important, is employee training, right? Now, sometimes what happens is that organizations do not take this as much of an importance, that, anything to do with cybersecurity is the responsibility of either the IT team or the cybersecurity team involved. Not exactly. It is the responsibility of each and every member of the organization, be it from the HR, be it the finance team. Each and every member needs to be aware what are the effects of a major cyber attack. How does it really happen? What are the different kind of emails they should avoid? What they should look at the time when they access emails, when they open up emails. So it's the responsibility of each and every member of the organization. Now, what's important here is that there needs to be periodical training, right? Either be it, I don't know, once in 3 months or once in 6 months. There needs to be a periodical training every organization should go through, which then kind of helps the organization can being secure. So connected to the previous slide of mine, again, what are the key recommendations? So they actually had about 16 recommendations in total. I would like to highlight three of them out here. And again, they are mainly concerned to do with having an enhanced security check to be performed, especially on critical information infrastructure systems. Now, when I'm talking about critical information infrastructure systems, we're talking about healthcare, we're talking about oil and gas companies, we're talking about transportation companies, um, manufacturing companies, for example, where you have a 24/7 operation run. So obviously you need to have enhanced, you need to have a very robust security check performed in these organizations, right? Singh Health appoints its own cybersecurity team rather than relying on a technology vendor. Now that's extremely important. When you have large organizations, you just cannot rely into a third-party vendor. You need to have your own man on the ground in order to manage these kind of incidents, right? Improvement of staff awareness. Again, this is something which I've highlighted in the previous slide as well. Staff awareness is extremely important because that's where the major topic comes in. Now, as I said, more than 90% of the attacks today happens through email. And with this example, I had clearly defined that the first point of contact was through a phishing attack, was through a phishing email, right? So it's important the kind of emails you actually access. So, connected to this now, obviously IBM and Punemon, they've done their own surveys around it. And what has been pointed out is that there is still a lack of incident handling and response capabilities happening. Just to identify a malicious attack, it takes 214 days by an organization, right? 77 days is just taken to contain and recover from an attack, right? And 76% of the organizations actually do not have an incident response plan. So when you're talking about, SMEs, you're talking about, let's say, mid-level, organizations, they still don't have a proper incident response plan in place. So obviously, even today, you see a lot of companies have just started realizing that, okay, cybersecurity is really important. We need to have all the systems in place just to ensure that we're not attacked. Now, what happens here is that obviously there is some amount of finance involved in it, but then, the amount of finance which you're actually going to lose is 3 times to 4 times more than the investment you're going to be putting in place for security systems, right? So that's kind of a worry within organization, because these organizations, obviously they again, you can't blame them. They're probably small to mid-level enterprises. Maybe they do not have a lot of investment involved in it, right? But then I think that should be one of your primary concerns. That should be one of the major areas where investment has to be happening by these kind of organizations, right? So what kind of a value does incident handling and response bring to an organization, right? So again, what you see on the screen here is, let's say, to a dollar you lose, you gain a certain amount of dollars in place. Now, for example, if you see down below, insurance protection, let's say that if you have a proper cybersecurity insurance protection in place, for every dollar you lose, you will gain $4.8 back, right? Similarly, appointing a CISO in place. And then finally, on top, if you look at an incident response team, having a proper incident response team in place would actually save you $14 to every dollar you lose, right? So again, so overall, when you look at it, when you have a trained team, when you have a proper team who are properly certified, who are properly trained, can actually save you millions of dollars when there is a breach, which is almost equal to $23.3 per record. So again, as I said, 30% of SMEs still don't have an incident response plan. So again, this is reiterating to what I've already mentioned a few minutes back, right? There are still a lot of organizations who don't have a proper incident plan, right? Lack of incident response plan actually leaves holes in the entire compliance strategy. So, today organizations are moving into becoming ISOs. They are they're getting into being more compliant. Now, when you are having a compliance strategy in place, having a proper incident response plan becomes a part of that compliance strategy, right? So that's extremely important. When you've done a survey of around 2,800 IT professionals, 77% of them actually responded, stating that organizations actually do not have a plan in place. When the HR companies or HR teams, when they have to hire, they have figured out that 74% of them actually they rate that hiring a skilled incident handling and response personnel is quite important and quite difficult as well, right? So that's also a big number because obviously at the time when they really need to hire a proper incident handling and response team, they are facing difficulties in the market, right? Which means that there's not enough certified members there in the market out there, and that is what is needed. So some examples here are related to some of the job sites which you all know. So even if you go to LinkedIn today, and put in, let's say, incident handling or incident management, you're going to find more than thousands and thousands of jobs specifically related to incident handling, incident response, which means that there is a heavy demand. There is still a lot of demand. There is still a lot of requirement of incident handling and incident management personnel all around the world. When you look at the salary bracket as well, and again, this is something which we had taken out, with a survey done in US. Now, the average salary for an incident handling and response professional is around $70,000 annually, right? So it again depends on the skill sets they have. So it ranges from around 70 and above. Well, obviously, what I've already explained is problems, threats, issues, what exactly has happened, but now when you look at all these, do you still need incident handlers? Is it really, really important to have incident handlers in place, right? And to do this, I would like to now introduce you to the program which is called the EC Council Certified Incident Handling Program. Now, the program as such in total is a complete program which gives you a very structured approach towards the entire systems involved in how to handle and respond to the entire cybersecurity incidents. What are the different kind of programs which are involved and around the entire cybersecurity incident strategy. And again, what you're going to be learning is something which has been already developed by some of the experts in the industry. So you have these experts who are some of from the largest organizations. They could be CISOs, they could be incident handlers, where we have taken feedback from them in terms of what exactly is required. And again, they are someone who have actually felt that in a real life scenario, right? And it's always good to have their feedback. It is always good to have their experience instilled into the program, so that that's the best which could be taught and learned by the professionals out there in the world. So as I said, we've had a number of versions out of it. So what you're going to be learning in the new version is, again, it's a very complete and updated content around the incident handling and response techniques. Again, as I said, it is mapped to the NIST framework, the NIST 2.0 framework. So I'll explain you in a short while in terms of which category out of the NIST framework the ECIH program has been identified in. And as well, it also maps to the CREST framework as well. Most of our programs are lab intensive, right? And we always believe in that. And all our programs should be more than 50% lab intensive. And again, that's something which Sean is going to be highlighting in a short while as well. And again, it has all your cheat sheets, it has all your templates, it has real life scenarios, it has all the kind of tools which is required in an incident handling and response technique, which is being taught in the Washington program. So looking at the course outline, and this is something which has been introduced in the new version. So if you look at the entire course line, it covers all the aspects and the incident relating to information technology. So what I mean to say is obviously starting with the introduction to the incident handling program, and then all the other incidents which normally happens. You're talking about your malware incidents, email security incidents, network security incidents, web application and security incidents, your cloud security incidents. So each and every aspect related to information technology, related to cybersecurity, is being taught in the program. So you kind of are covered from all corners. Right. So in order to give you a bit of far better depth towards it, I think Sean is now going to be taking over. He's the expert around it. So he's going to kind of run through the entire process involved in an incident handling system in place.
I don't know if I
Over to
need
Sean.
to, Faisal. I think you've given a really good overview there. As Faisal pointed out, there's two parts to incident handling effectively inside a business. There's the sort of management part and the actual response part. So what we do is we try to break it down to a 9-step process. And the most important step in any process is making sure we get the plan right. We take you through planning, recording an assignment, and triage. Triage, we have to detect the events. We rely on a SOC service desk to do that, to record the events that are happening and assign them for triage. These alerts that come in, they need to be confirmed. An information security detective control like an IDS, an IPS, a SIEM, or an XDR will issue a high number of false positives. And as pointed out in the Sing Health example, those false positives and false negatives can have a really large impact on your organization. The outside organization, if you've outsourced it, does not actually understand what's important to your business. So we have to perform triage. Is this incident real? How serious is it? And what sort of impact it would have on your organization? We then need to go into communications and notification phase. If something major is happening, if hackers have breached your system, if they have access to your personally identifiable or critical information, you need to put a communications process in place. Senior management need to know. Regulators need to know. Law enforcement might need to know. We need a plan because when the proverbial hits the fan, fail to plan, plan to fail. Once we do notification, we move into containment. Okay, the same as you would in a fire event. If there's a fire alarm that goes off, you first of all have to plan to have a fire in the building. You have to put in fire alarms and detective controls. And when a fire alarm goes off, you have to confirm whether or not there's a fire, and you have to communicate with people and notify them. And the next thing that happens, fire doors close. Purpose of a fire door is to contain the damage. The hacker is still on your network. Minutes matter in incident response. Every single minute you give me as a hacker, I can accomplish more. Steps 1 to 5 need to be carefully planned, rehearsed, and practiced and practiced and practiced. In 15 minutes, I can do little or no damage. In 3 hours, I can cause you harm. In 3 days, that harm can be serious. In 3 weeks, it can be extremely damaging. In 3 months, 6 months, it can be critical damage. So it's all about containment at the earliest possible point. Once we do containment, we're now working out what's going on. We just had an incident. We've gone through the first 5 steps and we're now trying to work on what has actually happened. We have to gather evidence. We have to do intrusion analysis. If it's a criminal event that's occurring, we may have to follow chains of custody so that the evidence we're gathering can be submitted in a courtroom. Forensics. We have to work out what goes wrong before we can eradicate it. Because if we want to eradicate it, we have to address the root cause of the problem. If you bring the system back up before you work out what went wrong, it's just going to happen again and again. Incident handlers play that dual role. Part of the role may be a forensics response, but it will always be a root cause response. We eradicate it, fix the problems that caused it, and we recover our system and we go into post-incident lessons learned. Like any good process, we're supposed to go back through at the end and learn the mistakes we made. Now, of course, within this, there are a lot of sub-steps. You've got an entire course to learn these 9 steps. When we look at one particular step, step number 6, okay, after containment, we have to gather evidence and analyze what's going on. If we zoom in, if you like, to just step 6, you'll find out that that in itself is a detailed process. It's a first response process. You'll ask any police officer when they go through their formal police training, when they arrive at a crime scene, the first thing they do is preservation of human life, containment. And the minute that they have it contained, they have to secure the crime scene. They have to stop the evidence being tampered with. If this is a criminal act, if we're going to end up in a courtroom in the future, we have to secure the evidence in a very particular way, the chain of custody. We have to make sure that there's clear records through the entire chain of how we gathered that information. If an unqualified person tries to collect the data at this stage, they will contaminate it. Its evidentiary value, the weight that this evidence will have in a courtroom, it's not always the same. When you take evidence to a courtroom, the court will decide. You can go from direct evidence, which can directly by itself prove guilt or innocence, right down to hearsay, rumor, gossip, speculation. If you don't secure the evidence and work through your chain of custody carefully, then you're preventing you ever succeeding in a court with the evidence that you're gathering. So built into the middle, just by zooming into one single step, you've got computer forensics built in there. Okay, there's a lot of material to learn. It is not all technical. It's probably 80% technical, but there's an awful lot to be said about the processes, the communication pathways, the forms you have to fill in. It's about the toolbox that you have as much as the technical things that you have. Do you want to jump back in, Faisal?
Sure, Sean. I think that's quite a very comprehensive explanation towards the entire process involved, right? So when you're looking at the design specifications of ECIH, again, as said, it is 100% compliant to the NIST framework as such, right? And also to the CREST frameworks too. It's based on a very comprehensive industry-wide job task analysis. Now, that's extremely, extremely important because the program actually has to match to what exactly is required when you all get onto your jobs in the incident handling plans and processes in place, right? So it has to map exactly onto that. It's focused on a very, very structured approach on how to perform the different kinds of processes and policies involved around incident handling and the response process as well. It has a large collection of templates, checklists, cheat sheets, and a lot of other information involved in it so that you are completely equipped towards the process overall of incident handling. And again, it's mainly focused towards developing your skills in handling the different types of cybersecurity incidents. Now, again, which is something which Sean is going to be showcasing in a short while with reference to CyberQ. Now, that's exactly what it has been highlighting towards, right? The reason why we have included the ECIH program in our CyberQ platform is that it is just not giving you a guided tour or a guided learning towards the different kinds of lab modules in it, but it also kind of allows you to kind of run the different kind of let's say competitions, trying to challenge yourself towards some sort of scenarios so that the main aim towards here is to develop your skills around it. Now, as I said, it is mapped to the NIST framework. Now, obviously, when you're talking about the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, now that framework has in total about 7 different, let's say, categories. And out of the 7 categories, the ECIH program comes under the protect and the defend category, right? So you're talking about others in terms of collection, of investigation, governance. So there's obviously a lot of other aspects involved within cybersecurity domain. So when you're talking about that, ECIH specifically falls under the protect and defend category of the NIST framework. Now, when you then map them to the CREST framework, so when you're talking about the CREST framework as well, CREST has its own agenda towards penetration testing, towards threat intelligence, towards security architecture. But when you're talking about an incident response, specifically under the cybersecurity incident response manager, the area towards there, I would say, is where it is mapped towards, and that is something which has been, I would say, it gives a far more better recognition for the ECIH program because again, it is mapped to the CREST framework under the cybersecurity incident response manager process, and it is also mapped to the NIST framework. So that makes it far more complete. Right. So back to you, Sean.
Thank you very much, Faisal. So what I want to do now is talk a little bit more about what you'd actually do in terms of hands-on during these courses. Because, of course, it's very easy to make a course that's very heavily theory-based, but it's not the theory that we actually need. It's not the theory that your business needs. It's the hands-on skills. So the EC Council for the past 5 or 7 years have been running cyber ranges. And we've got a brand new cyber range in terms of CyberQ, where you get a completely self-contained lab environment set up to run incident handling labs and processes. On different labs, you will have a variety of different hardware available to you in this safe sandbox environment. The reason why the cyber range is so exciting is because some of the things we want to investigate and learn are, of course, attacks. And we know attacks are dangerous. So instead of having them on local machines or having you download dangerous code, it's a fully self-enclosed, web-based cloud platform. And the access that you get to this is not just during the course. It's one of the best things that I think when we're delivering an EC Council course is the learning doesn't stop when you leave the class because your access to these platforms lasts for 6 months. So what you're simply doing is starting the learning journey with us in a classroom, but you're continuing it yourself with access to your cyber ranges. Every single module in an EC Council course is then mapped to the labs on it. In Module 1, we do risk assessments and look at risk management. In Module 2, we look at patching and patch management. Module 3, we're actually going into forensics. It's a specialist area. The EC Council CHFI, I'm a licensed forensic investigator, and the CHFI course specializes in that. But we're giving you an overview of it. We're giving you what we call first responder capability. Every single one of every single module is mapped to a large number of labs. I was laughing at Faisal when he said 50% was labs. I was working it out. If 50% was labs, I reckon this course would last about 8 days. Because you've got about 8 days worth of it. It's about 95% labs. You see, you can't fit them all in during the week. You have to go and do them in the evening times. We'll give you time during the course, but we only do the most important labs. Okay, some of the labs are 4-6 hours long. So you can do those during the course with us. We give you assignments and tasks in the evening time when we finish. And then you continue that learning when you finish the course by going back into it and going more and more. The one that I like, my area of speciality, I picked this one. I do like this one. I'm a networky person. Okay, TCP/IP right the way back. So I particularly like module number 6, responding to networks. We're talking Wiresharks, Nmaps, we're talking IDSs and snorts. We're talking all the fun stuff. And again, it shows you the range of things that you're going to have to know as an incident handler. We're teaching you a process, but you still need to understand the technologies and the attacks. If you want to understand forensics, you do CHFI. You want to understand attacks, you do certified ethical hacking. Now I'm going to jump into a demo in just a few seconds. I'm going to go to module 6, but just to finish this little bit off, look, there's labs on every single one of them. Let me introduce you to CyberQ. Okay, I did log on. I hope it's still logged on for me. It is. You never know when you're doing demos. So this is the EC Council. It's brand spanky new. And Faizal knows just how new this is to me. It's a fantastic system. So we've upgraded the cyber range. You can see all the different courses that are offered by EC Council, which Nemstar partners to deliver. The one that we're looking for is actually on the second page of them. This is going to be our EC Council ECIH, and across the top we get Certified Incident Handler. There are 8 sets of labs in here. They're rated in terms of stars and difficulties, and your progress has gone down. You'll notice that I have enrolled for this course. So when you come on the course, you get enrolled and you get 180 days of access to it. So again, I think that's so important. You know, incident handling, we're going to start you off in a classroom. We're going to build that foundation. We're going to make sure you know the processes and know the tools and how to do it. But to refine that skill, you need to practice and practice for many months. 6 months. That's how much access you have. The one that I picked is 6. Why? Because I like 6. And when I click 6, this happens. Here's one I prepared earlier. This is the CyberQ cyber range. In this particular cyber range, I have access to multiple machines. If I do an F11, you'll be able to hopefully see the bottom of the screen. I have access to a Windows 10 computer for this lab, a Windows 2016 server for the lab, and a copy of Ubuntu, a Linux disto. Okay, and I'll need to log on to each one of them anyway. So what I need to do is I need to work out, well, what am I doing here? Well, instead of walking you through by hand, down the right-hand side, we have got 2 options, flags and documents. The flags are the challenges. This is gamified, because if I jump back into CyberQ, okay, click on Incident Handling 6, guess what? It takes me through a leaderboard of people's scores, because each one of these is a scored event. So what you're doing is you're not just having a lab, you're playing against other people. It's like a capture the flag type affair. So when I go back to the cyber range, these are my flags. These are the things that I have to do to get points. And if we scroll down of them, you can see each one. Install Snort, one of the world's best IDSs, and configure it. Okay, configure Securicata. Okay, another IDS. And you go on, and the one I'm interested in, Warshark, I'm interested in this number 6. It's a beautiful little lab. I need an answer to it. Warshark on Windows 10 and perform a SYN scan. I need to know what that is. That comes from ethical hacking. It's an Nmap SYN port scan. Do it from Ubuntu. And I have to then use Warshark to find the attack. Now, you're thinking to yourself, right, okay, that seems a bit difficult. And you're right, it is. That's why it's good. But what do you do if you get lost? You jump up to Documents, okay, which my thing just jumped into. If you jump up to Documents, go away, F11. If you jump up to Documents, you go Open Lab Guide. Now, what I'd recommend you do is grab the lab guide and drag it out to a new window, because these are the cheats guides. You get a cheat guide with the individual steps on how to do every single lab. This is installing Nessus and running vulnerability scans. Okay, there's every single, this one is Nessus again. This one is Snort by the looks of it. Snort has been successfully installed. So if I do want to cheat, I can cheat. So you have got a little bit of hand holding if you need it. But if you're up to it, you can have a go yourself. Run Warshark on the target machine. So this is the target machine. Let me log on to it. just a normal logon process. In this target machine, you'll notice the IP address that I'm going to be targeting. So this is the machine that's going to get targeted, is 10.10.1.10. And I need to capture the network traffic if I'm going to analyze it. IDSs like Snort would do this for us. We're going to do it manually. We know Wireshark's a network capture tool. If I look down Wireshark, I want the network card that has the same IP address as my computer. So I click it. And what I do is I go in and I start the sniff. So this is my computer collecting all network traffic going towards it. Not much at the moment. If I, however, go to another machine, like the Ubuntu machine, and I generate some traffic like simple ping, okay, sorry, 192, ping, numlock, 10.10.1.10, then when that goes and pings, and I have to tail it with a Control-C, if I go back to test, then what I should find is I'm collecting that traffic. And can you see the ping requests and ping replies? And I hope you know that ping is an ICMP protocol. What I've been asked to do is I've been challenged that if a hacker was on the network and he was using this system, he might want to, or should I correctly say they might want to, okay, go and scan that computer. So nmap minus st, or sorry, synscan, no, ss for synscan, 10.10.1.10, and I can put other options on it. I can do a T5 to make it a little bit quicker if I like. But if I go and run that, okay, oh, I have to do root, okay, oh, sorry, root me. No, not root me either. It must be, the command to get in Ubuntu into command line permissions is not root, it's sudo in Ubuntu, isn't it? So if I do sudo, sudo, I'll tell you what, just pop the command again, and do sudo for nmap. I usually run my Linux hacking boxes as default root. Okay, I hope this is the right password. No, it's not. I'll try again. No, it's not. I'll have to try again. There we go. Got it third time. That's what you call password cracking. So I have now run the synscan, and I've run it against the server as a hacker. Our job in incident handling and response is to be able to find out this goes on. So when I go into Wireshark, the attack is in here somewhere in 2,170 packets. Our job would now be, during investigation, is to work out how this happened. So I have to be able to be equipped to go and to be able to search for dodgy traffic. It wants me to find a filter to detect SYN packets. How good's your network knowledge? Say, if it's good enough, you know TCP's the protocol. You'll know SYN is a flag. So I'll do tcp.flags.syn, and I will do == 1. Now I could get more advanced, but that would be enough to find the SYN packets. Can you see these? These are port scan SYN packets coming from a Ubuntu. Can you see the port numbers change? Your port scanning, port 53, DNS, 23, Telnet, 110, POP3, 113, don't know. Okay, 445 is Windows SMB, server messaging blocks. Okay, file share. 587, 139, that's old NetBIOS SMB. These are the ports that it scanned. And you can find that. So I now think that this could be the right answer to find the scan. So I can go across to my challenge, paste in my answer, tcp.flags.syn == 1, and I can submit that. Okay, and I got a right mark. Okay, you see, it is a bit of a game, isn't it? And if you don't know how to do it, don't forget what, if you want to do, I'm going to cheat mode. Cheat mode literally is, open two windows. That's really what you're going to do. Did I close the second window down? I did by accident. But if you go into the documents, open the lab guide, drag it out, and you've now got cheat mode, if you like. I know some of you will cheat and some of you will give it a go. But the point is, no matter which way you go about it, it's actually quite fun. But that's not supposed to be the point. Oh, sorry, Faisal. It wasn't fun. It was about learning, wasn't it? Sorry, techie people. We don't know the difference between them, do we?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, if we did all the labs, how long would we be here for, Faisal?
I think the whole it would almost take an entire probably I don't know, month maybe. Because you
Month?
got to
Okay, we'll do that in the next webinar. Is anybody up for watching a month of me mess labs up?
but then that's more of learning the entire program in itself, isn't it?
It is. That's
Absolutely.
really what you would end up doing, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think, yeah, again, that was quite a very comprehensive presentation towards the labs. And again, as Sean mentioned, one of the reasons why we have actually migrated from our iLabs, which we used to use in our previous version, and then we moved on to CyberQ, is because CyberQ is far more resource friendly, and CyberQ is far more in terms of rich in terms of experiences for for professionals, for learners specifically. And again, as I said, majority of our programs are there in the CyberQ platform. And the idea behind the platform is just not learning, but the idea behind this is also there are a number of other experiences in it as well. So even let's say tomorrow that you're working in an organization, right? And in an organization, maybe, I don't know, you want to probably try something to do with service exploitation. You want to maybe run through some sort of an attacks around it, run through certain modules around it, do a certain set of a competition around it. All that is possible in the platform itself because that's what exactly it is, right? Um, Anyways, I think that was pretty good. I think a lot of them for me is also something which I still have to get a little bit more deeper into learning towards it. But yeah, that was great. That was great. So when you're talking about where it falls in the EC Council career path, so as I've mentioned, EC Council has more than 40 different programs, right? We are mainly popular for our certified ethical hacker program, which the whole world knows about. But then apart from that, we also have other programs in the field of network defense, in SOC analyst, as Sean mentioned, the hacking and forensic investigation. Most of these courses, and majority of them, in fact, are run by Nemstar as well. But when you're talking specifically about ECIH, only 20% of our partners are actually delivering this. The reason why is probably because they might not have the expertise to run each and every program which EC Council offers, right? And that's one of the beauties of us working with Nemstar as one of our partners because they do have the expertise, they have everything involved in it. So they obviously fall under that 20%. So, that's one of the reasons why we have that. So when you talk about the entire career path, it actually falls under the specialist category. When you go start with the fundamentals, you move on to the intermediate level, which is more to do with learning about certified network defense. You get onto your core, which is certified ethical hacker, and then you come into your specialization. So in your specialization, you have programs like threat intelligence, SOC analyst, you have the certified cloud security engineer program, and you also have the ECIH. Right. Now, when you are as well looking at the track, and as again in connection to the previous slide as well, right? So generally, what we always say is that you at least need to have a minimum of 2 years of experience in order to run the ECIH program. And again, one of the reasons why we mentioned that is because you need to obviously understand certain tools, what you actually learn in cybersecurity, what you are probably using them in your daily jobs, probably, right? So you need to have such kind of an experience in order to work on the program itself. So when you're talking about the response track as well, it obviously starts with the CND, which is the basic and the intermediate level towards network defense. It is one of our blue team courses. Now, what I mean by blue team courses is because our certified ethical hacker is specifically an offensive or a red team course where you obviously learn about hacking, attacks. Whereas in C&D, you're learning more about defense, the different kind of defensive techniques involved in it. So when you look at the track, you have CNT, then you move on to your CTIA, which is Certified Threat Intelligence Analyst. You move on to your CSA, which is Certified SOC Analyst, and then you move on to your EC Council Incident Handling. Maybe Sean, you could kind of point it out because
Yeah, I mean,
again, you run through all these, right?
I would love to. I was just going to interrupt you, Faisal, and do that.
Sure.
See, these two go so well together. In the
Yeah.
United Kingdom, a lot of the way we're running this is through a SOC, a Security Operations Center, right? And what you have in a SOC is a bit like your ITIL service desk. You have level 1, level 2, and level 3 of support. SOC analyst is level 1 and level 2. Incident handler is the name of a level 3 SOC service desk operative. So really what we'd have is level 1 doing a lot of the triage. We'd have level 2 doing the impact analysis, how serious it is. And if it's serious, it gets escalated up to incident handlers to respond to immediately. So the two of those go really close together. When we are running things like, IDSs and SIEMs, we're taking it for granted that you understand what those are and how to use them. That's the SOC course. If you need to install a SIEM, if you need to configure a SIEM, if you need to install IDS, configure IDS, if you need to learn how to do that triage, SOC comes first, CSA, and incident handler comes second. I think they really dovetail into each other lovely, Faisal.
Perfect, perfect. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's where it falls. So when you're talking about the computer forensic track, right? Again, after the EC Council incident handling process involved, you also have the forensics involved in it. And again, I think Sean has explained that in one of the steps or one of the processes. Maybe Sean, you could kind of highlight here as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's this idea that, incident handling is a process, but forensics is a branch of it. The most important thing we must do is secure that evidence in the first step. But then somebody needs to go and do a criminal investigation according to your local court regulations, the chain of custody. The CHFI is very much about getting where's the evidence come from? How can we work out who did this? How can we secure that evidence to ascertain the identity of this individual and the methodologies they use? Think of CHFI as literally 5 days on Module 6. So Module 6 starts it, but CHFI is 5 days on Module 6. You can see how much knowledge and how much growth there is in a vertical like this within information security. The more experience you have, the better you are at it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, what's the target audience you're looking at, right? Who actually need to take this course? Who actually need to move on to the incident handling process, right? So here, as I said, and as explained earlier too, you need to have a minimum of 2 years of experience, right? And that's something which we recommend, right? And when you're talking about the different kind of job roles who actually need to take this course, you're talking about network administrators, you're talking about pen testers as well. You're talking about forensic investigators, who, excuse me, who kind of run through the entire forensics involved in it. We're talking about SOC analysts. You're talking about firewall administrators as well, right? These are those set of people. These are those set of professionals in an organization who are then further involved in the incident handling process. And again, these are some of the members who should uh, take up this course in order to get a far more advanced, in order to get a little bit more deeper insight towards what exactly the processes are. And then when you come on to the exams, the most important part, right? So overall, the program is only for 3 days, right? That's exciting. It's not something, even though, I mean, we cover the entire process, the entire program involved, you can actually complete the course in just 3 days. So you're talking about the entire 8 hours in a day, right? And in total, there are about 100 questions when you attempt the exam. You're given 3 hours to attempt them, right? And they are all done over the EC Council's exam portal itself. These exams are all multiple choice exams, right? Again, you do obviously a lot of your labs, over CyberQ or over iLabs, you learn through them, you run through various ranges, but then at the time when you have to attend those questions, they're all going to be multiple choice. You've got to get 70% in order to pass. And that's important overall. So finally, why do organizations need incident handling and response plans, right? What I've highlighted all in red is what exactly is important enough here to attend. So obviously, number one is it's a process that handles and responds to various security incidents instantly, right? Now, giving you an example of the Sing Health, where it actually happened, the hackers infiltrated into the systems, they got into it, they took a few days to kind of get all the information, and finally they had the 1.5 million records with them in place, right? Now, imagine that all that would have been avoided if there was a proper incident handling process in place, right? So, which means here that it needs to a process, the entire process need to be handled and response quite instantly. A process which actually is there to detect, to validate, to contain, and to eradicate such kind of security incidents, right? A process which actually ensures a safe and systematic recovery towards all the organization's assets, be it their data, be it all the other important aspects, be it their confidential data, everything involved in it. Um, Sean, I think, yeah, you are kind of highlighting it quite clearly out there. Yes, absolutely. So obviously, the detection and the validation happens within a SOC as well, right? And then contain and eradication is in incident handling. So if you see here, that kind of clearly defines that both SOC analyst and incident handling, it kind of goes hands in hand together, right? A process that actually assures that organizations are well prepared for handling any type of security incident, right? Now, that is a sense of confidence which an organization should have, right? It's not that finally, an incident happens and then finally they just lost. They don't know what to do further, right? But then an organization needs to have that confidence. The team needs to have that confidence that tomorrow, if anything happens, we are well prepared, right? Any points from your side, Sean?
No, 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 I completely agree. It's exactly what you do. The problem is, and I haven't got a statistic like you do, Faisal, but my experience as an auditor and security professional over the last 18 years, it only becomes important after you've had a major incident. Once you've had a major incident, trust me, you will have a SOC and you will have incident handling. The challenge is convincing management that we need this before it happens because the damage has already been done. Every one of my customers that I've ever worked with that's had an incident of any size, all of them have a SOC and an incident handling response. It's about the horse and cart, isn't it? Which comes
Absolutely.
first?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, talking out of experience, working with a lot of other, security vendors in my previous professions, I've been there, right? So whenever we speak to customers, whenever we speak to, bigger organizations, a lot of them, obviously today they have it in place, but then a lot, they're actually not even bothered about it until and unless they are a victim of an attack, right? Now, there are instances, maybe, giving my own experiences with some of the organizations I've worked with, and at least, giving an example, I used to be working in Dubai previously. For the last 40 years I've been there, and just a simple example of one of the organizations, though it was a small organization, they didn't have a proper, let's say, email security systems in place, in fact, right? And then what exactly happened is that they were a victim of an attack where probably the hackers, they got into their systems, they were able to figure out an email which was sent to one of their suppliers. They spoofed that email out. They sent it across and saying that, these are my bank details. The bank details have changed. And the customer managed to actually send money to that fake bank information feed. And then once it is gone, it's gone. You can't do anything about it, right? So again, all this would have been avoided if you have a proper system in place. Now, again, such kind of organizations, it's they would only realize it once they are hit, right? But again, what's important is to have them in place much beforehand, because the extent of damage will be 4 to 5 times more than the investment you're actually putting in those systems and securities in place.
Yep.
Right. Cool. So moving on. Perfect. That's all we have for today, right? Again, the floor is open now for any sort of questions you do have, anything to do with the program, any sort of questions. Sean and myself, we are here
Well,
to answer.
can I first of all say something before the questions? I just hope you all have good security practices in place and are running all the controls like your antivirus, because I would like to thank Faizal because he's just out of his deathbed with COVID. So I really do hope your antivirus is working on all your computers. Faizal, thank you very much for that. I did hear you coughing and struggling. It's literally his first day back after being off with COVID. So thank you so
Yeah.
much for persevering and doing that for us today.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Sean. My pleasure.
Folks, any questions? What have we got? Does anybody want to ask us a question? Is there any on our chat box? Let me just jump in and check. So what we'll do is we'll stop presenting and we'll go to the audio mode. Let me just jump into chat. There's nothing in chat just yet. Anybody want to come in with a question? You can come in with a question on chat at the moment. Your mics and videos are disabled for the session at the moment. So if you do have anything to ask, just go to the chat option at the top, type your question in, and me and Faisal will be glad to give you our responses at this stage. So anybody in the chat for a question of any type? Of course, we will also be making a video of this available. Myself and Faisal are both on LinkedIn. If you want to look us up, I'm sure we can handle questions offline as well with regards to this. Any chat questions? Okay. And just hi to a few of my trainees who stuck it out. I'm training this week as well. And I just noticed that Bikash and Huza are back in again, joining me after listening to me all day. They volunteered to listen to me for this session as well. So a little nod to those as well. But I think that's enough, Faisal. Look, thank you very much for that, sir. I hope it was informative. You know where we are. We're Nemstar. And if there's anything we can help you with, please just reach out to myself or Faisal. But for this session, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. But from us for now, thank you, folks. Goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.